welcome once again to Iowa, my good friend Marco Rubio. It's a pleasure to be here with him today in Des Moines. This is actually a very exciting week for conservatives across the state of Iowa, don't you think? We've got a lot of attention out there, and I am very glad to see so many of you that are involved in this process. But what we want to do, of course, is take a look at the candidates as they're coming across the state of Iowa, and hopefully you've had the opportunity to meet many of them. They are going to be out pounding the ground, and hopefully you can shake their hand and ask them questions about their policies and where they stand on the issues. These are going to be really important to us as we move into the caucuses next week. So I'm pretty sure that many of you are going to have that opportunity. But today, I have said I'm not going to endorse in this race, and that is a promise that I am going to keep to Iowa. So I am not endorsing, but I do want to introduce and welcome as many folks to the state of Iowa as possible. Now, I am going to introduce someone that is very near and dear to my heart and a good friend to me, and that is Senator Marco Rubio. So we have worked together on some issues. You know that, many of you know, that, as Jack said, before I became a senator, I was a mother, I was a soldier, and a conservative. And I'm very proud of that. So when I talk about wanting to keep our nation safe and secure, I take that to heart because those boots that are on the ground fighting for our values, those are the boots that I wore. Those are the boots that so many Iowans have worn. And those are the boots that Marco Rubio understands. He knows what it is to keep our country safe from the threats that are out there. And so you know as well as I do that this world is a very dangerous place. A very dangerous place. And we need someone that will show complete honesty about the threats to our nation and our security. And right now we have a president whose wayward policies in the Middle East have led to quite a quagmire. So I'm placing the blame on our president and anyone that has served in his administration. You know who I'm talking about. Anyone that has served in his administration that has led to this quagmire and has threatened our national security. What we're doing right now, folks, in the Middle East is not working. It's not working. We see ISIS that is expanding and growing across the Middle East. I want a president, someone who will address these issues, someone who will not just contain ISIS or degrade ISIS. I want someone who will destroy ISIS. And I'm going to say it again. We don't need a president who's going to contain ISIS or degrade ISIS, because that's what this president says he's trying to do. And we know that folks on the left are going to continue these same policies. We don't need to degrade it, contain it. We need to destroy ISIS. I'm looking for a president that will do that. So over the course of my time in the Senate, I've had the opportunity to work with Senator Marco Rubio on national security. And we have had that opportunity to discuss the threats to America. And he does understand those threats very well. And I know that he has the confidence necessary in a leader to contain or destroy ISIS. I've watched him fight that fight. Beyond our national security, he is a father, just as I am a mother. And I know that he wants to work hard to make sure that that American dream is alive for our children. So through our national security, through our economy, he wants to make sure that we have an America that we are going to be proud of. I've seen him fight that for his children, for my children. and for your children as well. So thank you all for being here today. I appreciate your consideration. And of course, I want you to give a great, very warm, heartfelt welcome to Senator Marco Rubio.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that incredible introduction. I appreciate it very much. I also want to thank Jack. He's been fantastic throughout this campaign. I have a soft place in my heart for state legislators because I was one myself. Of course, Jack is doing great work here, and Joni did as a state senator before she joined us in the U.S. Senate. I'm so proud of the fact that I was a supporter of hers when she ran. We had so much in common in those races. You know, she wasn't supposed to win, and they told her she wasn't supposed to run. It was supposed to be somebody else. But like I did back in 2010, we didn't listen to those people, and we ran, and we won. And we did it because we understand and understood that this country is headed in the wrong direction. And Senator Ernst, you know, she just spoke a little bit about some of those threats that we face. But this is why, in the end of the day, you're here today. You're here today, obviously, to hear from your home state senator, and you're so fortunate to have two incredible people serve you in the U.S. Senate. But you're here today because you understand that our nation in 2016 faces a real crossroads. 2016 is going to be a turning point in American history. It will either be the year where we rediscover and re-embrace all the things that made us the greatest country in the world, or it will be the year that America settles in under the Obama policies and as a result becomes a great nation in decline. We are the greatest nation in the history of mankind. There's never been a place like this. It was founded on an incredibly powerful truth. America was founded on the truth, a principle that says that all people are created equal because our rights do not come from the law. Our rights do not come from the Constitution. Our rights come from God. Our rights come from God. That's why we believe all human life is worthy of the protection of our laws. That's why we believe that every human being at any stage of their development, even if they don't have a birth certificate yet, even if they haven't even been named, we believe that all human life is sacred and that our law should protect it. It's why I believe we embrace free enterprise, because it's the only economic model in the history of the world where you are judged on your talent and your work, not on your connections. This is why we embraced individual liberty. And the embrace of these things made us the most powerful and most exceptional nation in the history of mankind. But you're here today because you understand that things seem like they're changing. A few weeks ago, I saw a poll that said over 50% of young Americans, of millennials, do not believe the American dream is still alive. You know what it would mean if the American dream dies? What it would mean is that America is no longer a special country. It'll still be an important country, but no longer a special country. And there are a lot of reasons why this is happening, but there's one in particular, which is the reason why I ran for the Senate in 2010, and Joni ran just 2 years ago, and it's the reason why I'm running for president now. And that is that in 2008, for the first time, perhaps in our history, America elected a president not interested in fixing the problems in America. We elected a president who wanted to change America, who wanted to make America a different kind of country, more like the rest of the world. He wanted to change our government's role in our lives, in our economy, and he wanted to change America's role on the planet. And that's how you get a president that conducts an all-out assault on the Constitution. He's obsessed with undermining the Second Amendment, an all-out assault on our religious liberties. This is how you get a president, by the way, that intervenes government in every aspect of our lives, trying to take over our schools with Common Core, for example. We elected a president that views America as an arrogant global power that needed to be cut down to size. And that's how you get a foreign policy where we betray allies like Israel, and we cut deals with enemies like Iran. And we have a president that apologizes for America across the world, and a president who's gutting our military capabilities. And that's why this election is now a turning point. Because if the Democrats win this election, all of these things will become permanent. If Hillary Clinton is elected president of the United States of America, the consequences will be extraordinary. Obamacare will be here to stay. These radical executive orders that are hurting agriculture and business in America are here to stay. If Hillary Clinton is elected president, the balance of power on the Supreme Court will be changed for the next 2 decades and beyond. If Hillary Clinton is elected president, our standing in the world will continue to decline. Our relationship with Israel will continue to erode. Bernie Sanders, by the way, is running as well. Why do you chuckle? At least he admits he's a socialist. And I think Bernie Sanders is a good candidate for president of Sweden. And he should run. I was saying Norway, but I got a little bit of heat from the Norwegian. I have nothing against Sweden either. I like Sweden. Is IKEA Swedish? I think I confirmed that yesterday. I like IKEA. So. But we don't want to be Sweden, and we don't want to be Norway, and we don't want to be Europe. We want to be America. And so this election, we cannot lose this election. We cannot lose this election. And here's how we're going to win this election. First, we need to nominate someone who understands what people are going through, who can grow this party because we understand what people are facing, and I do. There is no way Hillary Clinton can lecture me about student loans. It's why, you know why I talk about student loans all the time? I'm the only Republican running that does? Because I had a student loan. I had over $100,000 in student loans just 3 years ago. It's true I paid them off with the proceeds of a book called An American Son, now available on paperback. It is available on paperback, not a joke. Hillary Clinton can't lecture me about people living paycheck to paycheck. I lived paycheck to paycheck. I grew up paycheck to paycheck. By the way, so did Joni Ernst. It's why we're so passionate about these issues that people are facing. And she can't lecture me about raising children in the 21st century, about how hard it is for families. Because my wife, Jeanette, and I are raising 4 children right now, and we have to work harder than ever to ensure that our children grow up with the values they teach in my church, instead of the values they're trying to ram down our throats in the popular culture. We won't just unify the Republican Party, we will grow the conservative movement. Because I will be able to go to people all across this country who have not voted for us before, and I will be able to say to them, I grew up the way you now live. I grew up the way you did. My father was a bartender. My mother was a maid. They were never rich or famous people. But America changed their lives and mine. And I'm a conservative because limited government and free enterprise is the only model in the world where people like us can move ahead. And we will be able to convince people that haven't voted for us in a long time that our principles are the right ones. In the past, we've been told, you want to grow the conservative movement, you have to become more like the Democrats. Well, I never understood that. There's already a Democrat Party. We don't need 2 Democrat parties. We need a conservative movement in America that calls to people's aspirations, their hopes, and their dreams. And if I'm our nominee, we will do that. We will grow this party. We will attract and convert new conservatives. We will win this election, and we will turn this country around. And when I'm your president, if you honor me with your vote and I am your president, we will do what needs to be done to reverse the damage Barack Obama has done. I'm going to take the oath of office just like he did, by placing my left hand on the Bible and my right hand in the air and swearing to uphold the Constitution of the United States. But unlike Barack Obama, I will actually mean it. And then I'm going to go to the Oval Office, and hopefully he's left some pens behind. Because with those pens, I am going to repeal every single one of his unconstitutional executive orders. On my first day in office, any work being done at the federal government to impose Common Core on our states and our school districts will end on my first day in office. This outrageous practice of using your taxpayer money to pay for abortions overseas, that will end on my first day in office. All of these ridiculous EPA regulations, which, by the way, Joni Ernst has been a leader in fighting against. All of these ridiculous regulations that are doing nothing to make our environment better, but are hurting agriculture and business and making America less competitive. All of these radical policies, they will end on my first day in office. And on my first day in office, the world will know that America, once again, is Israel's strongest ally in the world. And here's how they're going to know it. We're going to know it because on my first day in office, I am going to cancel Barack Obama's deal with the Ayatollah of Iran. We'll continue to work. We're getting rid of Obamacare when I'm president. We will repeal it and we will replace it. And I'm the only one running for president that's ever done anything about Obamacare. Against it, I should say. The only one. You see, they created a bailout fund in Obamacare when they passed it. And they were going to use your taxpayer money to bail out private insurance companies. And I led the effort, and we got rid of that bailout fund in 2014. And now the experts are saying, oh, this may lead to the collapse of Obamacare. Well, I hope so. But whether it does or doesn't, when I'm president of the United States, Barack Obama's health care law will be gone, and you will once again be in charge of your health care decisions. We're going to deal with immigration in a responsible and serious way when I'm president, because I understand this issue personally. Better than anyone running, perhaps better than anyone who has ever run. Because my parents were immigrants, my grandparents were immigrants, I grew up in a community of immigrants, and I still live in a community of immigrants. I know every aspect of this issue personally. Number one, when it comes to immigration, the number one issue now is keeping ISIS out of America. Keeping ISIS out of America. That's why when I'm president, if we don't know who you are, and we don't know why you're trying to come, you are not getting into the United States of America when I'm president. Number two, we're going to start enforcing our laws again in a way that works. That's not anti-immigrant. I am the son and grandson of immigrants. Enforcing your laws is not anti-immigrant. And we know what it takes to achieve this. We need 20,000 new border agents. We need to finish the 700 miles of fencing and walls. We need mandatory E-Verify. We need an entry-exit tracking system to prevent visa overstays. And that's going to happen when I'm president, and nothing else will happen on immigration until that happens first, and it's in place, and it's working. And we'll deal with the rest of it, and it won't be amnesty. I do not support amnesty. I believe there needs to be serious consequences for violating any of our laws, especially our immigration laws. And that's why when I'm president, if you are a criminal alien, you will be deported immediately. And if you are a sanctuary city, when I'm president, you will lose your federal funding. The last issue I'll mention is one that Joni cares about deeply. It's the one we've been able to work on together. It's the one that she has personal experience with, national security. It's the reason why we have a federal government. And it's failing. The world is more dangerous than it once was. It's more dangerous than it was 7 years ago. There's a lunatic in North Korea with nuclear weapons. The Chinese are rapidly expanding their military. Vladimir Putin is sowing instability in Europe, in the Middle East. Iran is about to get over $100 million, which they're not going to use for charity. They're going to use to build their military and one day acquire a nuclear weapon of their own. And ISIS is not a bunch of bearded radicals on the back of pickup trucks. ISIS is the most sophisticated and well-funded radical jihadist organization in history. They burn people alive in cages. They have affiliates in over a dozen countries. They're now starting to show up in places like Indonesia, in the Philippines. We've seen what they've done in Europe. We know what they do in the Middle East when they capture young girls as young as 9 and 10 years old and sell them off as brides. We saw what they did in Paris. We saw what they did in San Bernardino. We saw what they inspired just 3 weeks ago in Philadelphia. This is how dangerous the world has become. And what is Barack Obama doing? Barack Obama is gutting our military. We will soon have the smallest army we have had since the end of World War II. We will soon have the smallest Navy we have had in 100 years. And we will soon have the smallest Air Force and the oldest airplanes we have had in our history. How can it be that the world is growing more dangerous and our military is being weakened? And how can it be that there are actually people running as Republicans for president that support spending even less, who have voted for budgets that brag about cutting defense spending, When I am President of the United States, we are not cutting defense spending. We are increasing it. We are going to rebuild the U.S. military because the world is a safer and a better place when America is the strongest military in the world. When I'm president, we're going to have a real war on terror. Joni's right. We're not going to contain ISIS. We're going to have a real war on terror. And here's what it's going to look like. The best intelligence agencies in the world are going to tell us where the terrorists are. The best military in the world is going to destroy them. And if we capture any of these killers alive, they're not getting a lawyer or a court hearing. They are getting a one-way ticket to Guantanamo, and we are going to find out everything they know. Everything they know. And one more thing that's near and dear to Joni Ernst's heart and mine, because of my brother, who was is an Army veteran. What we're doing with our veterans in America is immoral. Historic numbers of veterans unemployed, committing suicide, and waiting in long lines at the VA. There are good people at the VA, and we thank them. But there are people that are not doing their job. And when I'm President of the United States, if you are not doing a good job at the VA, you will be fired. You will be fired. And when I'm president, the VA benefits will not belong to the VA. They will belong to you, the veteran. And you will be able to use your VA benefits to go to any hospital or any doctor that you choose, not the one they make you go to. So I want to close by thanking you all for being here. And I want to thank Senator Ernst for taking the time to be here and introducing me to this incredible state that I've been humbled to run for president in. In a week from now, this state, and all of you, hopefully will attend a caucus. And it will be the first time that any Americans begin to answer the question of what comes next for America. I can tell you what's come before this time. What's come before this time is an amazing story, unlike any in all of human history. For 200 years, over 2 centuries, this has truly been an exceptional country, unlike any in the world. There has never been a country or a society like ours in the history of all mankind. Like Joni, I know this personally, for we both come from humble beginnings. There's a great story about Joni Ernst that we just talked about briefly before he came out. She did not grow up in privilege. In fact, her parents didn't make a lot of money like mine didn't, and so at one point you only had one nice pair of shoes, Joni. And so what her parents would do is they would wrap those shoes in bread bags so that, to make sure that they didn't get ruined when it was raining or snowing on her way to the bus. And I've heard her say something else about it. She said she was never embarrassed by it because when she got on the bus, the other kids had the same thing. Because that's where she grew up. My parents came to this country with nothing. My father lost his mother when he was 4 days shy of his 9th birthday, which meant he had to stop going to school, and he had to go to work at 9 years of age. He never went back to school, and he would work for the next 70 years of his life. When my parents came to America, they arrived, basically they knew very little English, had no money, no real connections. They had some relatives here, and they struggled. The lore in our family, of course I can't go back and prove it, but I believe it, was my cousin who had lived here a couple of years, I have an older cousin who was living here at the time, had phonetically spelled out on a little strip of paper the words, more or less, I'm looking for work. Those were perhaps the first words my father really knew in English. But it was hard. They were not an instant success. They were discouraged. Life was hard for them because they had very little skills. Neither of them gone to school, and it was hard. But they persevered. Let me tell you what my parents' life looked like less than 10 years after they came here. From Cuba, with nothing. They owned a home. And not just any home, a nice home in a safe and stable neighborhood. I can tell you decades later, my parents, they both retired with dignity and with security. And the most important thing of all for them, they lived to see all 4 of their children grow up to be better off than themselves. They were never rich. They were never famous. You never would have heard about them had I never run for president or office. But my parents were successful people. Because just a generation removed from poverty and despair, they achieved here what would have been impossible in the nation of their birth. But here's the thing, my story is not all that unique. It's actually the story of America. And while I was blessed with incredible parents, theirs is but one of millions of stories of people in this country who achieved what would have been possible almost anywhere else. It's not just a testament to them. Even more, it is a testament to America. It is the only place where their story and Joni's story would have been possible. And now it is what we are asked to decide. Are we willing to do what it takes to remain that kind of country? Or are we prepared to be a nation in decline? You see, every country in the world has rich people. We celebrate success in America. But what makes us special are not rich people. Every country has rich people. What makes us special is that a little girl that grew up with plastic bags over her shoes and the son of a bartender and a maid can serve our government at its highest levels. What makes America special is that the son of a bartender and a maid can run for the same office and have the same dreams and the same future as the son of a president or the son of a millionaire. This is what makes us special. And you know this because you've lived it. For who among us here today is not but a generation or two removed from someone who made our future the purpose of their lives? This is not just the story of ourselves, it is the story of our nation. A place where for over 200 years, each generation did what they needed to do. For we did not become an exceptional country by accident. We became an exceptional country because over 2 generations, over 2 centuries, each generation did their part. Now our time has come. Now the moment has come for this generation to decide whether we are willing to do what needs to be done, or whether we are prepared to be the first Americans who leave their children worse off than themselves. That is the choice. That's why this election matters so much. If Hillary Clinton wins or Bernie Sanders wins, then we're going to stay on the road we are on right now. And one day we are going to have to explain to our kids and grandkids why we inherited a great country, and they did not. And so that's why I chose to run for president. For after all this nation has done for me, I must try to pay back a portion of that debt. America owes me nothing. But I have a debt to this country I will never fully repay. This is not just the country I grew up in, it is the nation that changed the history of my family. If you nominate me, we will win this election. I will beat Hillary Clinton. And she knows that. And that's why she attacks me. And that's why she doesn't want to run against me. And that's why she doesn't want to face me in an election, but I can't wait to face her. She is disqualified from being Commander-in-Chief of the United States. She exposed classified information by putting it on her server. She lied to the families of those victims in Benghazi. If she wins, then the Obama policies stay in place. But if I'm elected, things are going to change. We are going to re-embrace all of the principles that made America great. We are going to apply them to the challenges of our time. And if we do what needs to be done, here's what history will say of this generation. History will say that we lived in the early years of this new century in a time of great uncertainty. But like all the generations that came before us, we did our part. We rose up to confront our challenges. And we rose up and confronted our opportunities and embraced them. And because we did, there was still one place on earth where who you come from does not determine where you get to go. Because we did, the American dream didn't just survive, it reached more people and changed more lives than ever before. Because we did what needed to be done, our children were the freest and the most prosperous Americans that ever lived. Because we did our part. The 21st century wasn't just as good as the 20th century, it was better. The 21st century was a new American century. This is what we will do together. We will win. We will turn this nation around. And we will leave for our children what our parents left for us. The single greatest nation in the history of all mankind. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that a week from tonight, I can earn your support in these caucuses so that together we can be the authors of the greatest chapter in the amazing story of America. Thank you so much for being here, Joni, and thank you all so much for coming. God bless you.